localwebradio.fm, your trusted voices on the Semiahmoo Peninsula.
Welcome to the Mortgage Newscast with Jared Dreyer, brought to you by Drayer Group Mortgages. Now, here's your host.
Well, Erik Reynolds here, and yes, I am your host, and I'm here today with Jared Dreyer, accredited mortgage professional and president of Drayer Group Mortgages, a proud member of the Verico Brokers Network. Now, today we'll be discussing the renting versus owning a home, how to know when you're ready to purchase, and what a person needs to know about the initial and ongoing costs of owning a home. Now, before Jared joins us, just as a reminder that if you require assistance or need to get a hold of Jared, you can do that in his team at Drayer Group Mortgages at 1-800-687-9020. Again, that's 1-800-687-9020. Well, Jared, as always, great to be talking with you again today.
Excellent, Erik. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Absolutely.
Well, I'm really excited to dive into this issue, so let me go ahead and ask you the first question. Now, with real estate, it's being fairly stable now, is it a good time for renters to think about buying a home?
Absolutely, Erik. You know, we're at historic low interest rates right now, and you know, it's always a good time to buy a home, especially when you think it's going to be a long-term investment, and that's what you have to remember. It's always better to pay yourself than to pay someone else's mortgage down for them.
Well, what are some of the advantages of renting, though?
Well, the monthly rent, you know, usually covers cable and heat. They're not responsible for maintenance issues. And basically, you do have the flexibility, you know, of like a one-year lease or that sort of thing. So you're not tied to can move at any time.
Okay, on the other side of that, then, what are the advantages of owning a home?
Well, the key advantage is home ownership. It's still your largest single source of savings for tax-free money in Canada. And, of course, your payments can also build equity, you know, for yourself versus building equity for someone else. It's a very stable investment. And, you know, over the last 25 years, real estate is always on an upward swing. And, you know, future home equity, of course, can be used for various things down the road, such as retirement, you know, a vacation home, or even helping your future children's education.
Well, Jared, I have a few more questions, but before we get to that, let's go ahead and take our break, and we'll be right back with accredited mortgage professional Jared Dreyer. And when we return, we'll be discussing more issues when you're considering buying a home and issues with home ownership. We'll be right back.
The Mortgage Newscast with Jared Dreyer will return after a quick word from our sponsors.
Take control of your financial future with sound investing with Byron Stryloff, Senior Investment Advisor and Chartered Financial Planner with over 30 years of experience on the Business Channel on localwebradio.fm.
If you're struggling with a dental or oral health issue, be sure to catch the Healthy Smiles Oral Health Show with Dr. Norm Ickert on the Health Channel on localwebradio.fm.
Buying or selling a home on the Semiahmoo Peninsula? Catch up on local market conditions on This Week in Real Estate with Lance and Connie Marples from Sutton West Coast Realty on localwebradio.fm. To schedule a face-to-face consultation, you can reach Lance and Connie at 604-538-8888. That's 604-538-8888. And visit them online at www.surreywhiterockhomes.com. Now, back to the Mortgage Newscast with Jared Dreyer on localwebradio.fm.
All right, we're back with Jared Dreyer, and we're discussing renting versus owning your own home. Now, Jared, is lifestyle important to think about when considering buying a home?
Absolutely, Erik. You know, it's very important that you consider sort of how your lifestyle is going to be, not even today, but also for the future when you purchase a home, you know. And you got to make sure that you're ready to obviously, you know, think about are you going to be starting a family in the next 5 years? Are you downsizing, potentially going to be moving out of the home? Is retirement on the horizon? And, I think a couple things is when you own a home, you do have to upkeep it. So are you prepared for all the maintenance that goes into it? And, I think you also, too, you have to just make sure that you budget enough for, your extracurricular expenses, such as vacations or any other item. So that way you can have the ability to keep making great pay down the equity in your home, and you can still afford your lifestyle.
Now, how do potential buyers know they might be ready for home ownership?
Lots of different, it's usually life events. It's basically if you're going to be getting, married, right? Either moving out of your parents' home for your first-time home buyer. It's essentially what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have that life event ready. And then, of course, you want to have good credit history. You want to make sure you have money saved up for your down payment. And that your employment, which is key, is going to be stable and continuous.
Well, what are some of the potential costs home buyers need to be aware of before they take the plunge?
Well, there are several initial costs that are very that basically they have to pay upon once the home is completed, or basically the money exchanges hands, and those are lawyer fees, seller buyer property tax adjustments to the different municipalities. There could be some home inspection fees. There could be moving costs. There may or may not be appraisal fees. And then each utility does charge usually a hookup or application fee. And then as far as ongoing costs, there's mortgage payments, your annual property taxes. If you're buying a condominium or townhome, there are strata fees. And then the usual repairs and maintenance and your utilities, which, you would have utilities if you're renting as well. So, but it's very good, for you to keep the budget that way and make sure you can meet those expenses.
Well, Jared, before we finish up here, do you have any final thoughts for the listeners?
Buying a home is a huge financial decision, Eric, and so it is extremely important that you have an independent mortgage advisor guide you and make it smoother and a much stress-free process.
Well, Jared, man, it's been great talking to you and hearing your advice on buying a home versus renting a home and what potential homeowners need to know. Now, I look forward to speaking to you again next week, and we'll be discussing variable versus fixed-rate mortgages and how to choose the right option. Now, for our listeners, if you know someone who owns a home or would have questions, would benefit from what we talked about today, do me a favor, do them a favor, do yourself a favor, share this podcast with them. I promise you they'll thank you for it. Now, if you have mortgage questions yourself, maybe considering refinancing, you need to talk to Jared and his team at Drayer Group Mortgages at 1-800-687-9020, or you can visit them online at www.drayergroup.ca. Well, Jared, as always, thanks so much for the conversation today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about Drayer Group Mortgages, visit www.drayergroup.ca. That's www.drayergroup.ca. Or call 604-536-3802. That's 604-536-3802.
localwebradio.fm.
This episode is a production of Jam Media. For information on hosting your own web radio show, visit jammedia.com. That's www.jambmedia.com.
The opinions expressed by our guest and host on localwebradio.fm do not necessarily reflect the views of Jam Media or its owners. No expressed or implied opinions of any product or service should be considered an endorsement or recommendation of any kind by Jam Media or its owners.